some of these things have been so deeply ingrained in us, that we have to realize that there's actually like a thought pattern that actually has to change. My pastor from back home used to say that the scene of the crime is your mind. So
that's good.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's
Yeah.
a level of like thoughts are where it starts. So we have a thought, but like how often do we go throughout our day and don't even think about what our thoughts are actually saying? I think to see someone experience the level of change and transformation that I did, like through like encountering God, that's one of the best feelings to see someone. Like my goal is to not make someone that just like looks like me or seems like me or acts like me. Like that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for them to actually encounter Jesus, who truly changed me. So that's campus ministry in a nutshell. It's like I'm trying to help them walk with him.
So in today's episode, we're going to be sitting down with Nik Tucker. Nik is a full-time campus missionary, and today we're going to be talking about transformation, what it looks like internally, externally, and if you get to the end of the episode, we're going to go through a list of the 3 ways that you know that you're fixing the wrong things in your life.
And we hope you enjoy this episode of the Friendly City Podcast.
All right, so Nik, for people who don't know who you are, how would you introduce yourself?
I'm a kid from Charlotte, North Carolina, that pursued soccer all of his life and pursued athletic, I guess accolades and different things, and ended up finding Christ. So, yeah, for me, I'm a Christ follower. I'm a disciple of Christ. I'm a friend, and a brother, to the people around me, and I like to identify, as a son. A son of God. I think that's my most important characteristic. I think that's the thing that guides a lot of my life. So, yeah. But I'm a campus missionary, and in my free time, sometimes I get on a track and I rap sometimes. So yeah, and a part-time pickleball player.
Yeah, I remember playing against you at that one tournament.
Yeah,
that was fun. How did you get into being a campus missionary? What inspired you to work with college students?
Yeah, I think for me, just kind of keeping it short. When I was in college, I think I was trying to search for identity in a lot of different places, and you come to college and you're trying to figure out like, what am I going to do with my life? A lot of times you're questioning like, who am I? What's my purpose? Like all these different things. And I think for me in college, like I didn't really know what that looked like. I think that I definitely wanted to throw all my eggs in the basket of soccer, even though I was a D3 soccer player. I thought to myself like, man, even if it's not like in a big league, like I would love to try out overseas. I would love to go pursue this as far as it can take me. And I'm still studying, in school. And so I also had this backup plan of I'm a digital media major. So maybe like I would own like a videography business or a photography business after college. But I wasn't like super passionate about that, but I just kind of felt like I was good at it. And so for me, I kind of just like fell into like a, party lifestyle in college. I'm out of my parents' household, and I wouldn't say it was like extremely strict, but I also was just not the kid that went out and partied in high school and did all these things. And so I just like went so heavy into that. Like this is what the movies and TV shows and everyone was like boasting about in high school. I went so deep into that. And, I just hit a point, where I was just like on all these substances, and I'm starting to almost abuse them and just do these, different things. And I just thought if I got, attention from women, or I performed well in the soccer field, like that was where I found my value. And, I realized that all those things are, very temporary and very fleeting. And so there was just a point my junior year of college where, I hit that rock bottom moment where, anything that I may have felt, any pain that I experienced as a kid, I know this is like deep already. We're just diving into the deep
bro,
end,
I love it.
But for me, I think I just hit a point where I realized like, you're laying in bed and you're looking up at your ceiling. My lifestyle is very fast, and I'm just kind of chasing every pleasure and every high that I can, imagine, just thinking like, man, this is life. And I'm laying in my bed one night, and I just remember just looking at the ceiling and asking myself, like, is this all there is to life? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I'm doing everything that like I dreamed of or that I wanted to do, and or living the high life or whatever. I thought I'm living it up, and I didn't feel settled in my soul. Like I still felt like very depressed. I felt very anxious. I felt all these different things, and I realized all this stuff was just a mask, for that. And so I hit that moment, that realization where I said like, man, like there's got to be something. Like I don't want to call it my come to Jesus moment, like at that point. But I think I just realized, I was like, man, my life doesn't have purpose and doesn't really have direction. And I really don't know what's going to happen next. And I think there was a fear of like, man, like what if I just like end up wasting my life, basically. And so basically to kind of fast forward, after a conversation that I had with my sister about a month later after that, look at the ceiling moment, I realized that like she told me about Jesus, and she told me, about God. And, I think at the time, like I didn't really want to hear what she had to say. And she was being very truthful, with me. She almost like what she really highlighted was she told me that she doesn't recognize me. Like basically at that point, this is my younger sister that saw me as an older brother growing up. And when you're younger, I think there's a almost more authentic version of ourselves when we're younger because we're not thinking about
No
what everyone
filters.
what everyone thinks about us or different things. Like I cared so much about image and I cared so much about like people liking me and how I was on the soccer field and all these different things. Like everything was not even based on what I truly liked. It was all based on like how do I just fit in this world
Yeah.
where I don't feel like I fit. So when my sister looked at me and said, "I don't recognize you," I think that was the point where I realized there's something like desperately wrong. You know what I'm saying? With me and this life that I'm living, she can even tell that this is not me, that this is not my authentic self. And so, so years later, so I give my life to Christ back then, but years later, I feel that like the call, of the Lord, like I almost felt this tug, like no matter how far I would try to run away from like the campus ministry, like I could always feel a pull back there because I know what it's like to be someone that's trying to figure it all out. And that's like no fault on anyone. Like we're all trying to figure it out, in life. Like we're born into this world. We're trying to figure out who we are. If there is a God, why was I created? You know what I'm saying? Like all these different things. And so I think for me, the passion behind campus ministry is one, because I feel called. I feel like God is sending me to the campus. I don't just believe it's something that I just get to choose. Honestly, it's not a comfortable job because for me, naturally, I'm not the type that just wants to go up and, walk up to any old person and just have a conversation talking about their soul and what eternity, is for them. Because
Yeah.
that can be heavy and you get rejected for that. And I struggle with fear of rejection. But I think for me, it was like a passion of like, I know what it's like to be lost and to be broken and to feel like the weight of the world just kind of come crashing on you and being like, I don't want anyone else to feel that level of like pain and pressure on their life where they are struggling with suicide ideation or they're struggling with depression and these different things. Like, and I realized I was like, man, like no matter of like mental health books or just these tips, like were helping me, and everything in that way. Like I realized something was desperately wrong with me and needed to change. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
for me, that's the passion behind campus ministry. Not just that I'm called, but like, I know that's why I'm there. Like I know that's the reason why I'm on campus is because there's another Nik out there that's experiencing the exact same thing, athlete or not. There's someone on campus, there's a student that is struggling with that. And you can find people like that anywhere in community and everything. But I specifically know what it's like to be a college student that's saying, like, why am I even here? Like, what's the purpose of me even living? You know what I'm saying? So, and if there is a purpose for me to live, then what is that? You know what I'm saying? So I think for me, that's the cool thing. And I tell students all the time, like, my goal is not for them to end up in campus ministry. That's not my goal, and that wasn't even my goal initially when I came to college. My goal is to help them understand who they are, whose they are, and why they were created. Because if they can do that, they can go anywhere, do whatever job, and they're going to do it with a level of excellence and all that because they know who they are. They're doing it with their full authentic selves. You know what I'm saying? They're leading well from a place of actually knowing, like I have value and I have purpose. And that's what actually influences like my work and the relationships around me, not just trying to like survive socially, you know what I'm saying, just to fit in,
Yeah.
like I was trying to do at first. And I felt the difference, of what it was like to constantly take short breaths everywhere, to kind of feel like I'm gonna be this person over here, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be this person over here. But to actually like take a deep breath and know like who you are is different. You can be yourself in any space and not feel like the pressure, of that because you actually know like, no, this is me. No matter how they react to me or no matter what my circumstances or different things, I know who I am. I know I'm loved. I know that I'm chosen. I know that I was created out of love, by a creator who loves me. So that's kind of like, for me, that's the long form answer of like why campus ministry is so super important, for me, because I think to see someone experience the level of change and transformation that I did, like through like encountering God, I think like that's one of the best feelings to see someone like my goal is to not make someone that just like looks like me or seems like me or acts like me. Like that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for them to actually encounter Jesus who truly changed me. So that's campus ministry in a nutshell. It's like I'm trying to help them walk with him. Like I'm just like I'm there to guide. I'm not just there to just have good advice or all these things. Because if I just give them good advice all the time, they'll constantly come back to me and everything. But my goal is like, no, how do I help them actually walk with the one who made them? And from there, that's where they actually experience true value. More so than anything I could say or affirm them in. Like they actually know like deep down their soul is loved.
Mm-hmm.
I can't make them feel that on that level and everything, like only he can. So that's campus ministry for me. Like why it's so important is when people know that, like everything else translates.
I think it's also amazing that you get to touch them at such a impactful point in their
Yeah.
life. Like if you can figure out, like these are life's biggest questions
Yeah.
that you're talking about.
Yeah.
If you can help someone figure that out and get the answer at a time where they're figuring out what their career is going to be, what the rest of their life is going to look like, that is super impactful.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah. What do you think it takes to actually transform someone's life? Because there has to be some moment, like a rock bottom or a come to Jesus or something. There has to be an awareness, a realization, like you're staring at the ceiling moment.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the very first step to change is awareness and realizing that, hey, this isn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you think it starts?
Yeah, I think that, I guess my hope would be that whether it's at rock bottom or you have everything and you're technically on your quote unquote, like, I have achieved it, having the revelation of like, this world was created to be enjoyed, but like, you're not going to be able to take it with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that there's a level of like, I don't think you have to hit rock bottom per se. Like, I think you can also be up high and realize that it's not enough either.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's a hard realization because not everyone believes that there is a God, you know? So there's a level of like, if you don't believe that there is a God, then realistically, like your worth and your value is only in this span that we have right now on earth. And it is in these created things, you know what I'm saying, that are around us, like these like temporary, pleasures on earth before we leave, so yeah, I guess to answer that question, I think that there does need to be an initial moment or a recognition that something is not right. I think there is a recognition in people that something is not right. But obviously people have different beliefs, on what that is. Some people believe like, in the universe or different things, so there's a level of like, but I think people genuinely like feel it in their souls though. And I remember one author I heard like a quote from, and hopefully I can find it after this. But he's basically saying that like eternity is in people's hearts. Like it's already placed there and everything. And the
desire for eternity?
Not even the desire for eternity, like eternity has already been placed in our hearts because we've been created by an eternal God and everything. And so there's a level of like,
we have a taste of it.
We have a taste of it, but until we are actually reconnected with him, there's like almost like people will always fill that hole. That's why it's always like, let me constantly, like, let me make more money. Let me get that promotion. Maybe I can make it to a higher league if I'm an athlete, or get the starting position or all these things. Like there's always, I need to get there. I need to get to whatever the next like high is or the next thing. And then I'm going to achieve it. But when you realize that all this stuff was never meant to actually satisfy you, that we were meant to enjoy these things but not be satisfied by them, it's different. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think that people do have to come to that first recognition to understand that that's where transformation really happens, is you initially recognize that like there's something that needs to be healed and needs to be fixed in here and everything. So yeah.
So what happens after that? After you get that realization and you're like, something's missing, something's wrong, where do people turn to next?
Yeah. Well, I think the most transformational news is the good news of Jesus. Like for me personally, like I think that that's where true transformation happens. Because the reason why I say that, and then I'll get into more like the practicals, is that we do want to change like our external behaviors, or there's certain things that we'll recognize. We're like, okay, this is not healthy. I shouldn't be doing it. And we might be good for a week. Like we might be like, okay, I stopped this for a week. It could be, smoking, or it could be, I don't know, today's times, I'm just going to keep it candid, like pornography. It could be any of these things that like, we're like, I don't like this about myself. I don't want to do it anymore. And then we'll like go a week and we'll be like, man, I did it. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been sober, or I've been, whatever, for a week. And then we fall back into it and we really don't know like why that's the case. But we realize that some of these things have been so deeply ingrained in us, that we have to realize that there's actually like a thought pattern that actually has to change. And so I would say one of the most impactful things that would be a next step for transformation, actually comes out of Romans 12, verses 1 and 2. And it talks about not conforming to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so when I think about that, that means that a lot of times my pastor from back home used to say that the scene of the crime is your mind. So
That's good.
you know what I'm saying? Like there's a
Yeah.
level of like thoughts are where it starts.
Mhm.
So we have a thought, but like how often do we go throughout our day and don't even think about what our thoughts are actually saying?
Yeah.
Like they're just happening, So we kind of just allow our thoughts to happen. And
Dude,
we're not really
it happens
analyzing.
with anything. Like when you start analyzing and logging things, whether it's what you're eating,
Yeah.
what you're thinking about, whatever it is, you will get so shocked and surprised by like all the thoughts that are actually going on.
Yeah.
When you actually take
Yeah.
inventory, your behavior actually changes,
Yeah.
which is wild. But yeah, I love that.
Because it brings it to the light. That's
Yeah.
the thing. That's the thing about it.
Are we
is that-
scared of the light?
You know what I'm saying? Like we're scared to bring these things to the light because I always think about it. I'm like, man, if someone wrote every single thing that I do or think about and everything, if they were to write it down on a whiteboard right now and had people read it, I don't know if I would be comfortable with everyone reading every thought that goes through my head. You know what I'm saying? Like there's naturally like something
Yeah.
in us that is just like not right. You know what I'm saying? So
For sure.
I think it's interesting you talked about like the logging. I literally just started that today.
Yeah.
And everything. So like I, am having some accountability with like when it comes to exercise and eating. And one of the things is logging everything that I eat, tracking calories and stuff like that, right? Which is new for me because I think sometimes I can be like, oh, I'm generally like eating healthy, but actually sitting down and being like, this is what I'm eating every day. Like it does force you to actually like, assess like what am I doing or what are the habits that I'm not even noticing that I'm doing. And so I think, the good news of Jesus is a good start. And for anyone that hasn't heard it, is that there's actually something deeply wrong with our soul. So there's sin in our life. There's basically an evil that, is in our soul that happened from, if you believe, in the Bible, what happened in the garden initially, God created a world that was perfect. And he basically said, you can do anything you want other than eating from this tree of knowledge of good and evil. And it wasn't necessarily like a lot of people were like, okay, well, God created all these things and said you can do what you want. But then like, why did he just like place this tree here and everything and then tell them not to eat it? Like, that's like if my parents said, don't touch the stove because it's hot. But then I want to find out anyways. You know what I'm saying? To see if it's really hot, I touch it. But what I recognize is that why God did that is because he was actually allowing the humans to have an active choice of saying, am I going to allow God to determine good and evil? Or am I going to want to become like God and determine good and evil? And so he placed it there not just like as a temptation, just to do that, but he actively like, I believe that love is a choice. I believe that love is something that you actually choose to do and everything. And so there was actually an active level of like, God created us, but also wanted us, to choose him. He created us out of love and everything, but also created humans to be able to have the ability to love as well. And so when that happened, humans decided to go against God, decided to go against his commandment and do that. And so that was the first level of separation that we had from God, our eternal, an eternal being, an eternal uncreated being that loves us so much. We got separated from him. And so we actually experienced what discord in relationship felt like. And so for me, there's a brokenness that happens in our heart. And if we even think about when we're born, there's a level of like, we come out of the womb almost saying no, or, different things like our parents say this and we say no. There's just a natural response that comes out of us. Like, where did we learn to say no to our parents or to rebel?
I don't know. All I know is I've been rebellious since the day I was born, bro.
Same.
I'm always like, no.
Yeah.
I got this.
Yeah. But I think that the beauty of it is that God saw us in our brokenness and God actually entered humanity. He came down, in the flesh to live out a perfect life on our behalf because we couldn't do it. And then he died the death that we deserve because sin is the opposite of God, who is life, right? So sin brings death, brings disconnection and death. And so God came down in the man of Jesus, lived the life we should have lived, died the death we should have died, and then he rose again, proving that he was the Son of God and that he is the Son of God, and that he defeated death and sin. And so I believe that news, he offers us forgiveness as we repent, which means to turn away from whatever we were doing before. And so that's an active choice of me saying, if you think about our thoughts, that's an active choice of saying, this is my thought is telling me to go this way, but I'm choosing against it to turn the other way. So that's what God is basically asking. He's like, there's these thoughts that are now in our brain that we've almost come to believe. And he's actually saying, no, these things are telling you one thing and these are actually not from me. This is a lie. And that's why you've been believing and chasing it. We turn away from those things. And so when I came to the knowledge of Christ and realized I was actually doing what Nik thought was great, what Nik thought was right, and it led me down a path of destruction. Essentially, like I was hurting myself, but I was also hurting others in the process. Like there was people that were affected by my actions because I just decided to go down this path. And so I realized that there was a brokenness in me that truly needed to be healed. And so that's the initial for me where I believe that transformation comes from, is realizing that there's a God that actually went and he died for me, that he laid down his life to sacrifice for me. And I can't even think about, maybe some people in my life might do that, lay their lives down, maybe my parents, but there's a level of like love for a God that technically I was an enemy of and I was rebelling against. He went, you know what I'm saying? Like, we know if you love someone, you'll hop in front of them and take a bullet. But for someone that was an enemy of God, like myself, for someone that decided to go against him, he still laid his life down. Because the Bible says, like, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a crazy thing for me. Like, I think about it. If there's someone that I don't like that would be a struggle for me, just in a human, like in my own flesh, to be like, yeah, I'm going to die for that person. But like, that's what Jesus did for us. And so when I recognize that, I'm like, no, like my life is not my own. And so that's where the transformation started to happen, because now I recognize, okay, there are thoughts and there are things that come from God, and there are things that come from the opposite, which is Satan.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also thoughts that just come from us. So now I'm actually like having to like sort through my thoughts. And so when I think about not conforming to the world, for me, it's like I'm actually having to sort out and take captive every thought. I'm having to think about, okay, why am I thinking this thing?
Oh, I know that takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
it doesn't just come naturally.
Bro.
How do you not run out of resources? How do you not get tired? How do you not just like go the week, celebrate it, fall back into it, and then get right back to where you started?
Yeah. It's actually kind of interesting. I'm kind of glad we're having this conversation right now, because I'm never one to act like I have it all figured out. None of us do,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm never one to sit up here and be like, oh, like I'm a campus missionary, so I have it all figured out. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely not the case. I think that's something that I've actually been experiencing recently, is that I know the difference between when I am trying to fight this on my own and just in my own effort versus when I'm actually like relying on the power of God. And so for people that don't know, like when Jesus died and he rose again, he was rose by the power of the Holy Spirit, right? That Holy Spirit, when we are born again believers, which means that I've confessed Jesus as Lord, that means I've given my life up and I'm giving it to him. And I believe that, and I've turned away from my old life. We get indwelled with the Holy Spirit. And so there's essentially like, there's a level of power that God gives us to be able to do this. And I recognize the times that I'm praying and I'm asking God for power when it comes to battling this and taking these thoughts captive. Like there's a different level, like when I am in, constant, closeness with God, relationship with God, where I'm, pursuing him every day, where I feel there's almost just a resurgence. There's a supernatural energy that comes from that, where I don't get tired of, taking these thoughts captive. Like I actually see the value in it. But if I just do it in my own strength, and it kind of feels like the difference is like me being on the offense, trusting in him and his power, versus me just being on defense and just getting hit a bunch. Like I love boxing. So I just think about like some fighters, if they get backed into a corner and they're just getting just beat up and everything, and they're just taking a bunch of hits. Like they're throwing like their defenses up and they're blocking some, but some of those punches are coming through and hitting you. But I think about, relying on God is like me going on the offense against these things and everything, and almost these thoughts and, these evil forces we're putting them in the corner in that way with the authority of Christ. And so, it does get tiring. I feel like if you're doing it in your own strength, that sounds kind of unpractical right now when I just say that out loud.
No. It's a great analogy. I really like it. It helps me visualize it because, I've realized that too often I'm just trying to use my own strength almost all the time.
Yeah. Before we even hopped on the podcast, you and I were talking about triggers. We were talking about things that trigger certain things. And so, for me, I always come back to, if I want to go a certain way, or I feel like my thoughts are leading me a certain place, or I end up doing something like a habit that I'm not trying to do, I always ask myself like kind of what led there, and for me, I think the biggest weapon that we have is the Bible, because I believe that it is the Holy Spirit inspired, written word of God, and so I believe that there's truth, there's truth in that Bible that actually can combat things that I'm thinking and things that I'm believing, right? That like may or may not be true. And so I think for me, that's going on offense, because I think to myself, I'm like, okay, I have this thought, or maybe there was a random thought that came in my mind that said something that almost devalued me. Like, I don't know, it could be like, Nick, you're terrible, or just different things that come into my head, right? And if I think like, Nick, you're terrible, that can trigger me to go do an action that almost like makes me feel better in that moment. So it's like, if I feel, or if I think I'm terrible, I'm like, okay, let me go comfort myself with this over here. Let me comfort myself with this over here, which, inherently some of these things can be good things, but just abused are actually not great for you,
Yeah, like working out.
Yeah, like some of those things, like
going for a run.
Yep.
Getting a 2-miler in.
Come on, 2-milers. you see it,
I see it,
see it,
But it can easily turn into a coping mechanism, which is a lot better than...
Which is better than other things for sure.
But all of these by themselves aren't the answer either.
But sometimes they don't even address the really root issue that's there. That could be something you believed all your life,
Yeah.
And so you can keep running, physically, but also like metaphorically, like you can keep running from these things. And let's say it was that, let's just use that example. Let's say it was that thing. And that was the lie that I've been believing all my life. And I just go out, every time I think about it, I just go out for a run, right? I'll go out for that run and I'll run around the neighborhood and come back. It's not like that lie left. You know what I'm saying? Like I just ran from it for a little bit or just like escaped it, feeling the euphoria of the runner's high or, whatever. Like I'll run to that thing. But I think that that's the thing about God is that God actually like, he addresses the things that are like deep rooted in us.
How does he do that? How?
It's supernatural because I think we have to understand that like we are, like we have a soul, we have a spirit. There's a level of like, some people don't believe that, but I'm saying that I think that we have a spirit. And so there's a level of the supernatural that's there. Like there's the spirit realm that I believe that God actually does that work in and everything. And a lot of that stuff just manifests in the physical. And so that's why he's the only one that can really do that work and everything, because you could try to replace your thought patterns all the time and everything. But if you're not relying on God to actually truly do like the healing that needs to happen, like some of these things can come back. Some of these things can, maybe you replace that lie for a little bit with truth for like a week or two, but there's a level of like, that thing won't really be uprooted until you're truly submitting that to God. And for me, that looks like through prayer. That looks like through, confession. That looks like through prayer, inviting people to pray for me, also praying on my own. But it's a daily thing that I have to do, all the time. I wouldn't say that it's ever something like you arrive. I think we'll arrive when we get to heaven, which is kind of I don't want that to be a sad reality. I believe that that's the hope that we are, that I look to and everything. And that one day I'm not going to have to even think about these things. I'm not going to be living in a world that is sinful and that has all these things in it. I'm going to be living in a heaven where I have a perfect body and everything. And there's no more tears. There's no more, of the pain and the weight and all these different things. And so for me, that's why I feel like every time I experience healing, I'm getting a glimpse of heaven, when I'm here. And so that's the hope, is that, we're basically getting glimpses and we're getting experiences of what heaven's going to be like, when we experience, freedom or even lasting freedom, in certain areas. I think that's God showing us a glimpse of what heaven's going to feel like. So,
yeah, I think it's really important to focus on that and know that is the end goal, destination and goal, but also take into account that like God has an amazing plan for you here on earth too.
Yep. Amen.
And whenever you step into your purpose, you know who you are, you follow that plan. Like God can make the most amazing things happen in your life that you cannot even plan. You can't even begin to imagine.
Yeah.
It's one of these things that is just, you kind of have to experience it in order to really feel it. Like I think God made you with certain talents and gifts, and he made you like a very specific player or human, just like a FIFA player, like an ultimate player.
Come on.
He was out here crafting you, and you have like a unique set of skills, and they're perfectly bound. They are the way that they were supposed to be. And whenever you find a role that you can fulfill and it complements all that perfectly,
it's like a puzzle piece.
It's like a puzzle piece. Branding, figuring out who you are. I think a lot of that comes down to like removing all this stuff that people put on you. The world is going to give you so many labels, so many things.
Yeah.
But whenever you go back to who you were as a child, like what did you like doing? What were you like? Who did you want to be around? How did you communicate? What made you laugh? What brought you joy? Where did you get lost in for hours at a time? Those are like small hints of how God created you.
Yeah.
And whenever you can figure out what that is and live in that and follow that path, I think amazing things are in store for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Even as a child, if you think about it, like, because we're both creatives, I think there's a level of, like, if you think of us as a child and the level of like our imagination and creativity that we had. I was watching a video earlier of this one rapper, and he was talking about how we had such a big imagination as a child. Like we would come up with the craziest games. Like we didn't even need much. We didn't need a phone. We didn't need anything. Like we could come up with a game in the backyard and we made a whole movie scene out of it, you know? Like we had this imagination, this creativity that I feel like was lost or almost was like shoved down with us just like growing up in life. Like whether it's through experiences of people around us and
Or getting
us just kind of
rejected once, or
getting rejected once, and now all of a sudden we're weird if we imagine these things or get creative in this way and everything. Like there's a level of like what you're saying is so true because yeah, like I think we are returning when we truly understand like who we are, like we're returning back to that place. We're returning back to that place where it's actually like we have that childlike curiosity about life. We have that childlike imagination where we believe that anything is possible. You know what I'm saying? But then once we grow older because we experience hurt or rejection or we feel like it didn't pan out this one time, now we like lack faith that anything is possible anymore. We lack faith that that I can do this and I can achieve this or different things. So
and then you start looking for it in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
And then you start like you lose who you are, and you start putting way too much weight on where other people think you're going to find this, where movies show you you're going to find it, where maybe even just the safe place that you ended up turning to cope with it.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, you end up getting lost in it, and then your life just goes astray.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that we need to return back to. You know, we need to return back to that place. Like I know how fun it was back then. You know, dude. We both probably like, you know, and I'm not saying everyone's childhood, you know, was the greatest, but I'm saying that there's pockets of you recognizing like it didn't take much to have fun. You know, when we were kids, it didn't take much to find, you know, joy in the little things and stuff like that. Like I see videos of that one kid that went viral. He's like, "Oh, an avocado, thanks!" Like he got excited over an avocado, you know. But these days, like we don't get excited until we get the nice car, or we don't excited until
even then, like it fades like, so fast.
It fades. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, like why? Let's find joy in the little things. Look out in creation and just see the little birds that are flying. Like just enjoy the little things in life and see how beautiful life is. I think we've just lost that. Life's too busy now. We don't have time to just sit down and actually enjoy what's around us, enjoy the people, you know, that we have in our lives and all that type of stuff. And we just kind of lost that.
I don't want to spoil some of the stuff that you have on the list, but I'm just thinking about how whenever you do live in that and you do return to that, you're able to influence so much more than yourself. Like you are able to affect people around you. You're able to just find that joy, and it's contagious. Yeah. It's honestly contagious because whenever you see someone else doing what they're meant to, and you see like, I think that's one of the reasons why I really fell in love with Duck. When I first came there, it was Mama Jenny. I just saw the joy that this woman had, just how she embraced everyone, how happy she was. Yeah. And I grew up going to a church that was like very stone cold, and there was no joy. There was like, all you do is be sad and be serious all the time. Dang. And it was tough. It was tough growing up. Yeah. I was a goofball too. So it just
would you get disciplined,
dude? Bro, yeah, I had like my desk was always out in the hallway. Yeah. This was like in school, in Sunday school, and Russian school, and all the schools I went to, bro, I was getting in trouble. Wow, everywhere.
Class clown a little bit.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I love that. Dude, yeah. But no, just all this to say, whenever you have that and you find that purpose and you find your calling, God's calling for you, you're able to impact so much more than yourself. Yeah. You're able to just truly change the world. It's like the parable of the talents. Like you're able to multiply, and create more in other people as well. Yeah, because I can see this whenever, like the goal of why I'm doing all this. I want to inspire people. I think everyone should do something like this. Yeah. I think the world would benefit if more people heard the stories of your story, of some of the other people that I've had on here that are able to share their experience, what they've been able to overcome, what they've been able to achieve, how they've transformed their lives. I think a lot of people are unhappy. There's a lot, there's a lot of pain and suffering in this world. Yeah. And from a personal side too, but also from like a business side. Like I know how hard it is to have a business. Like people just need help, and they do. They really do. And whenever you can figure out, like, I don't think I'm quite walking in my purpose yet. I think I'm trying to figure out what it is and get there. And the only way that I know how to do that is just by doing it. Yeah. But I'm trying to get closer to that, and hopefully through this whole thing, bring stories to light, but also inspire people. Yeah. And the goal is to affect more people than like ultimately who are around me. But I just want to have a greater impact.
I think that's good. I think that I think my perspective got reframed a little bit when I think people are just afraid to fail. I think that's the thing, is like that's the reason why people are like scared to just like take a leap and like try to see this. Like I think I respect so much the fact that you're just like, hey, I'm figuring this out as I'm doing it. I think that's us in life in general. Like I think we're always figuring out. We're figuring out more so like why do we do what we do? You know what I'm saying? In the midst of just doing it. So I think sometimes analysis paralysis gets in the way of just kind of feeling like, what if I do this and it doesn't pan out, or what if it does? What if it does pan out?
What if it pans out better than you ever
Right.
thought?
So I think one time I heard on a podcast someone said like failure is not failure, it's finding. Like basically when you fail at something, you just find something out from that failure. Like you find out, okay, this is not what was supposed to happen, or maybe this was not how I was supposed to do it. So you essentially like failure is not something that we should be afraid of. I think that like failure and all that like is an opportunity for us to like find out more about ourselves and everything in the midst of it. I'm not telling people to just go out there and do some wild stuff, just to like, I mean like crazy stuff that's going to hurt them or someone else. But I'm saying like, just like business ideas, like specifically for business. And if you feel like there's something,
Even self-expression,
I'm like, it's okay to fail at it. You could be into fashion and put together
a really bad outfit.
Yeah, a really bad outfit. At least to other people, it might seem like a really bad outfit, but then it might catch on. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
It might, or you might just realize, okay, well, this is why this didn't work, and this is why,
And
oh,
then
I didn't get the
change it.
reaction I wanted. Maybe it's because of this, and that, and then you start kind of
You just tweak
reflecting.
You tweak it, and then it just changes, over time. And so that's with anything: art, fashion,
Fitness,
anything. Like, who knows? Who knows what can happen? Or like, who knows, because you just, after the last time you failed, you didn't quit after that time.
Yeah.
Who knows what's on the other side?
And a lot of times it's like you'll do something, somebody will say it that you never would have imagined, and they'll either, like, a new path will open up, one that you never saw, one that you never could have envisioned. It'll be so much greater than what you did envision.
Yeah.
An opportunity will open up where I know someone that would be a really perfect fit, or I don't know, anything can really happen, and you will never know until you do it.
Yeah.
And sure, like this is something I struggle with personally, is just being really self-critical. Watching myself on these videos and these podcasts, bro, editing them for hours. I'm just like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But I'm really happy that I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It might not be as great as I want it to be, but I'll get there eventually. But I think it's important to do it. And I think, it sounds crazy, I think God wants me to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I believe that, but I think he's got a plan. And there is a certain level of comfort where I can kind of offload the responsibility and be like, well, if God wants this to happen, he'll make it happen. And if not, then it is what it is. But I'm not going to try to push what I want so hard. I'm just going to kind of, like, I think God gave me creativity. I think he gave me the desire for a reason. I think it's to serve him ultimately.
Come on. Yeah.
I guess it's for his sake ultimately, but it's not like God is in a vacuum. Like he can accomplish his goals and your goals at the same time.
Yeah.
Or maybe he can upgrade your goals and just make them even better than you ever thought.
Yeah. And some of these desires, like he places them there.
Yeah.
Like I truly believe that. Like sometimes people will be like, man, I don't really know what I want to do, want to do this. And then I'm like, okay, that might be a passion or a desire that God placed there for a reason. Like chase after it. Like it might seem like off the wall from what you're doing right now. And then it's like, okay, why would I do that right now? Like, this doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, just try it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and God is a creator. First and foremost, God is a creator.
He's a creator.
He made things, and he made us in his own image.
We're supposed to be creators.
We're also supposed to be creators. We're also supposed to be making things, putting things out into the world. So often we get stuck consuming, just watching, taking everything in from everyone, like watching reels for hours, YouTube, Netflix, bro, you name it. Reading, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You can get stuck just consuming all the time. I think it leads to a sad existence. I really think we should be creating and putting stuff out there, because that is the way that we're able to channel God in a way.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I do think we all should be creating. I don't care if it's drawing. I don't care if it's reading or writing.
Yeah.
Taking photos. I just like they're making music, dropping beats, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I know you know about that.
Yeah.
But what actually inspired you to, like, where did you get this vision and this desire to start making music? And being like, oh, I'm actually gonna, that's a crazy thought. Like, oh, I'm just gonna start rapping, which I've always wanted to. I've always I just haven't had the what's the word I'm looking for? The courage.
The
I haven't had the courage,
gumption
the conviction,
yeah.
the chutzpah.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Yeah,
Where'd you get it?
since I was a kid, I was about to my Florida friends, they would say since I was a jit. No, since I was a kid, I grew up like kind of like around rap a little bit. Like I remember as early as like middle school, I remember like passing music between me and like I was in a typing class, I think. And I remember a friend of mine, him and I would pass USB drives back and forth to each other, like sharing like new music. So he would like share with me like Kanye, Wiz Khalifa, like just like he would share me like all these artists. And I remember I would just like listen to rap. Like at a young age, I started like getting really involved like rap. I really love battle rap. Just the whole like concept and the whole like creativity that comes with just the metaphors and the punchlines and just everything. But doing it in a story format where people are actually telling their story and sometimes heard like the rawest stories about people's lives, but done in an artistic way was just one of the like the dopest things I think that I've seen. And so I would just say I was big into that spoken word, battle rap, just rap in general, R&B, like all that. So I think for me, I like found out like what freestyling was,
Mhm.
like just, I was like, wait, so this person didn't write this down. Like they're just rapping it and they're coming up with it like on the fly on a random beat. I was like, that's crazy. So I started messing around with that when I was like younger. So it'd be like, when I got into high school and I started, I got my license and I was able to drive, like I would start just rapping in the car. Like I would play beats. I would even play songs that had lyrics on them and I would still like rap. I would just rap loud and rap over top of them. And so I remember that was like kind of an escape for me. Honestly, it was just something that I really enjoyed doing. Like it was like a fun, almost that creative aspect of like, yeah, I played instruments growing up, but like this was different. Like this was like so cool to be able to try to like put words together that made sense, that had a cadence, and that actually had like a storyline.
Yeah.
Was just different for me. And so I grew up kind of doing that. I maybe like wrote a little bit, but I never actually wrote a full song until college. And so when I got into college, I would rap some at like parties and stuff like that. Like I would freestyle at parties if there was like a song.
I'm sure you're a big hit.
It wasn't like too crazy, but sometimes I would just do it just for the fun of it. And some of my friends around me would just, they would turn up with me, when I would do it. But it'd be in the middle of a party, everyone's going crazy, no one's really like paying attention, like that. But it was just fun. And I think at some point when I started following Jesus, I started rapping about him. Like I started like almost learning what does it look like to like rap about Jesus? Like what does that look like? Yeah, so I started doing that, and then it was 2022 actually. I would freestyle around my friends all the time. There's so many videos of me like just freestyling in cars and different things with my friends, and they would hype me up, doing this. But no one ever like really. I never thought I should make a song. I just thought that this was something fun I'd do in my free time. But in 2022, that's where I was at a coffee shop, and my friend had sent me a beat, and he's like, "I feel like you'd like this beat," And I was actually reading the Bible like just at a coffee shop. And in my mind, this is where it comes to these thoughts. Like I heard write a song. And I was like, what do you mean? You know what I'm saying? I was like, is that me? Like, did I say that? Or like, was that God? Like, and then I heard write a song again. And I was like, but I don't know how to write a song. Like, I feel like I was pulling a Moses, you know what I'm saying? Like Moses in the Bible, God tells him to go do something. And he's like, but I can't speak very well. He's like, you're going to be my spokesperson. And Moses is like, I can't speak very well. And he's like, no, I'm the one, who gives you the words to speak. I'm the one who puts the mouths on man. So for me, I realized very quickly, like in that moment, I was like, okay, I believe that the Lord is telling me to do this. So I just started writing from there.
How do you determine, is it your voice or is it God's voice? That's a hard thing to understand.
Yeah, it is a hard thing. It takes, I tell people it kind of, just like we had to learn how to speak when we were younger, we kind of had to like learn to listen to our parents' voice. Like, I feel like it took some time for us to kind of like, for our ears almost to be open to that and everything. So for me, I have to really like address, I like to compare what I'm hearing in my mind with like scripture. So I try to like understand what God's character is and like what his nature is. I know we're all trying to figure that out. So I'm not saying I have it perfect. I'm not a theologian, but I'll like look at like how does God show up and kind of how does he speak in scripture and, what is some of his characteristics? And I try to think of like the nature of the thought that I'm having. And I try to think like, okay, does this like reflect? Does this reflect God? Sometimes I can just tell. That doesn't help. That doesn't help necessarily practically, but sometimes I can just know, like, and just kind of like, quote unquote, feel it. I don't want to say that seems very mystical. Sometimes a random thought will be so random that I'm like, okay, that like just couldn't come from me. Like, why would that come to my mind?
Mm-hmm.
Like to that point, I had not thought like I should write a song. Like I actually was thinking the opposite. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, actually, I don't think that I would ever write a song. I think that freestyling's fun. You know what I'm saying? So at that point to hear write a song, I was like, okay, that is weird. It also doesn't feel like something that's immediately pulling me to sin. You know what I'm saying? Like pulling me to something that's going to hurt anyone else. Like it felt like in that moment, I'm reading the word, I hear this thought, I'm like, okay, in that moment, there was just a level of faith I think that I needed to have, that was what God was saying. And when I heard that, I felt confident about that. I just went for it. I wrote a song that day. I was like, I said, I don't know how to write a hook or how to write a bridge, but I think this is how it should be structured. And so I just wrote a song. And I think that day I wrote a whole song. And then I went home and like recorded it on BandLab, which is like something you can download on the App Store, and you can record like songs on your phone with Apple headphones if you want to, you know. I just recorded, a song. I didn't have any studio equipment, but I said, what would this sound like if it was an actual track? And it just went from there. And so ever since then, I've never felt like the sense from the Lord to just like stop writing. So for me, I tell people a lot of times, you feel like the Lord has told you to do something, keep doing that thing until he tells you otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, when it came specifically to writing or like music, I never felt like he told me to stop writing. So for me, it was always just, that was the genesis of it. That was the beginning of it, of like 2022, I did that. And then I noticed as I took a leap of faith to follow that, to follow what he's saying, that's where like the door started opening, where now I'm like meeting people that happen to do music. You know how you buy a car and then all of a sudden you start seeing your car everywhere,
Yeah.
but before you weren't really thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like that. It was like, okay, I follow like what I believe God is telling me to do. Now every person I'm meeting has something to do with either they're a producer or they write music or, they have a studio or, they're an engineer, like all these different things. So I'm like, this is really weird. Like all in the span of months, I was like, I've never come across so many people that claim to be artists or that do this. I'm starting to meet gospel rappers. Like as I'm starting to rap about Jesus, I'm meeting gospel rappers. I go and work at a summer camp that summer, and the first person I meet there is a gospel rapper. I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
That's crazy.
So I think it's more like that. Like there's little confirmations along the way where God's kind of like, this is what I told you.
Yeah.
This is what you do now. And so to see where I'm at now, like I'm in no way, shape, or form. Like I'm not doing, music full time. And I believe that God has used it as like an expression of my ministry and everything, as an opportunity to reach people, in a dope way. But I think what's cool is like now I'm connected with people, where I'm actually like discipling and mentoring college students that also make music. So I think what's cool is become a tool, not just for me to enjoy and for me and God to have fun being creative, but now it's a space where I'm actually inviting guys over to my house to record. I'm inviting guys over to my house to chop it up and have a conversation similar to this. And then we'll hop on and make a song, about whatever we talked about. So I think it's just really cool just to see how the Lord's using it. And I believe that even with the podcast, I want to speak this in faith, like over you, bro, is like, I believe that as God is giving you like this desire to do this and you're just like taking it and going with it, like I believe that God is going to show you the purpose for why you made it. And I can already see the purpose of it right now. Like this is the point of like us having conversations like these and then people actually getting to enjoy the fruit of the conversation. So I believe that you're going to like be introducing people's stories that are going to impact people, all across the city and beyond. And that's the beauty of technology, is that he asks you to do this in an age where we actually have technology that we can reach across the world. Like this wouldn't be the case 200 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So that's the cool part about this even, is that God's going to use this to reach people that you never even thought. Like it just needs to be that one person. Like it doesn't matter if you only get a few views on this one, but one person watches it and they hit you with that DM and say like this impacted my life so much. Thank you so much for releasing this. That's kind of like what I see it as, is like when it comes to music, like I'll have a show or I'll do something or someone will say like, I don't even like rap, but I like your music. You know what I'm saying? I don't know whether that's a compliment or not, but they're like, I don't even like rap, but actually what you said really impacted me. Like that's important for me. It's like when I'm rapping and sharing my testimony and you do it in a creative way, the creativity is what kind of brings them and draws them in.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, they hear the content. That's where like the impact happens. And so you even having this setup in here the way that it is, like this is so like aesthetically pleasing and like professionally done. It gathers people's attention. When I've seen it on Instagram, it gathers people's attention. And from there, they're drawn in. Now they're hearing what the person has to say. So I see purpose in anything. Like if you feel like you've gotten that nudge, I tell people sometimes I feel like God is giving us a nudge. We're just not paying attention.
Mm.
So for me, that was like my nudge was like the write a song. It
Yeah.
was very simple. It wasn't like paragraphs long of instructions on how to do this. It was like very short, like write a song,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, thank you for sharing
Yeah,
that, dude. It's
absolutely.
really cool. And thank you for speaking all that over
Yeah.
me, dude. It means the world to me whenever I do get a comment and somebody will say like, this is really impactful.
Yeah.
It honestly means the world to me.
Come on.
And that is the goal. Like the goal is to bring someone on to share something that can actually help people.
Yeah.
That's like the whole point is to be friendly. And like, what would a friend tell you?
We're gonna rock it. We're gonna rock it for the camera. Look, this right here is the 3 signs that you're fixing the wrong thing. Step number 1. It's not step 1, but it's number 1 is focusing on your external behaviors. You know, if your external behaviors are not changing. And so the reason why that is a sign that you are fixing the wrong thing is I believe that external behaviors are linked to something internally that needs to shift or needs to change. And so a lot of times we just want to change external behaviors or we just want to stop doing something. But essentially, we have to first address what are the things in us that are actually causing us or triggering us to do these external behaviors. There's a lot of times like root beliefs, you know, that we have in us that actually need to be uprooted. So we have to actually do enough like soul searching and deep searching to figure out like what is that thing that's actually causing me to do that. So, you know, that's essentially why that's a sign that you're fixing the wrong thing. You actually have to like take a deep dive into what you're actually experiencing and what you're feeling and realize, okay, whatever that thing is can even be, you know, it could be an emotion. That emotion can be attached to something that maybe happened from your childhood. Like, I don't know, it could be really deep. It can be really deep. And so you have to do a really deep dive to understand, okay, there is a root behind a root of something that I'm doing. And so, you know, these things are just symptoms of what's actually, you know, the underlying issue.
And the fastest way to tell is with the external patterns.
External patterns.
Because they will show you what's inside.
Yeah. So that is a sign that is, the external behavior is a sign, you know, of something that you need to fix. You know, it's not necessarily, if those are not changing, then that is a sign that you're fixing the wrong thing, that you're just focusing on the external, you're not dealing with the internal. So
Yeah, I love that.
There's that. Second one, negative mindset. So a sign of fixing the wrong thing with a negative mindset is that you have a negative mindset with basically everything that you go into. It can be a negative mindset, you know, towards the people around you. It can be towards your circumstances. And so, you know, that also goes with external things. And so we're basically looking at external things and constantly have like a complaining attitude or a negative attitude towards things. Maybe we lack hope that things will change, all that type of stuff. That goes into also an internal issue that's going on. You know, there's something in us. I believe truly that when we are changed as people, that there's a level of that our circumstances and people around us don't necessarily change, but we actually start seeing them differently. So I'll walk into a room and everyone else could be like, man, this sucks. This is terrible. I don't know how anything is going to come out of this and everything. But with my mindset and my leadership, you know, it can affect the situation. It can change the situation based on the way that I approach it. And because I believe like, no, like things can change in the midst of this. I'm trying to almost like say this.
It's hard. It's so hard to do that though. It's hard to not have a negative mindset sometimes.
Yeah.
It's so easy to fall into the thing like nothing's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a pessimist maybe.
Mm-hmm. I can be too, yeah.
It's just tough because like when you're in it, it's so hard. Like, everyone just says, oh, just like change your thoughts. Be positive. Like,
so
that does not help.
Yeah, it does not. It's not easy. So I think for me, you know, when it comes to negative mindset, one of the things I believe in scripture, you know, is where in the New Testament, you know, the Bible talks about taking every thought captive, you know, and submitting it as captive to Christ. And so for me, you know, the negative mindset shifts when I'm actually taking captive my thoughts. I'm actually taking notice to what my thoughts are saying, and then I'm actually saying something different. So if the thought is that nothing is going to change about the situation, then a truth that comes in is that, no, I believe that God can change the situation. I believe that God has sent me here to be able to be an agent of change in this situation and everything. Now I'm looking at it as like, okay, how can I show up and actually be a change in this situation rather than show up and just complain about everything that's there? Because at that point, you're just going to sit there and complain and not change anything. And your mindset is still the same. I was going to say still the shame, but I guess your mindset is also the shame as well, and everything. So I think that's for me is taking every thought captive and just being aware of what you're actually believing in that moment, because belief is very powerful. So if you're choosing to think that and then believe it, it means that, no, I'm like actually setting all my foundation on this thought. So that's why nothing's going to shift, because now I've built this thought on a foundation of nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Yeah. The third one.
Speaking of being an agent of change. Oh no. It's all good.
It's pulling up. But it says lack of influence. So in this, you know, I always used to here, I think someone else has said this before, but that we're called to be a thermostat and not a thermometer. But no, honestly, for me, I think if you walk into a room, and this is for all the leaders out there, if you walk into a room where you're constantly coming into meetings or your work environment and things are not necessarily shifting, a lot of things are out of our power. But I think there's a level of when you come in with a changed mindset, when you come in with a changed heart and you actually have a different belief system, there's actually things that start to rub off on other people around you. So if your environment is not necessarily changing by you being in it, I think that we have to do a deep dive and ask ourselves, like, are we actually allowing ourselves to be changed and be transformed? Because I believe that when we are changed and transformed, we are agents of change wherever we go. So that's for me, like even on the campus, I think as a campus missionary, like as I go on campus, if things are not shifting, if lives are not changing, the power to transform and truly transform somebody in my hands is, or in my opinion, is, and belief is in the hands of God. But there's a level of me just showing up to be there and to be a part of what he's doing. Like that's where I feel like the change really happens. And so, I would just kind of like, question, that's a sign of maybe you're fixing the wrong thing. If there's a lack of influence wherever you go, there's an idea that we can't control everything around us, but we can be the ones that actually
Be an agent of change.
Be an agent of change.
I love that
in
phrase.
that way. So that's what I would say.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, Nik, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for making this list. Thank you for making time.
Yes, sir.
I really enjoyed this conversation. If people want to find you, where should they go?
If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can look up TUCKNIK on Instagram. My artist page on all platforms is NIK space TUCKER. I said that wrong. TUCKER with a period at the end. Nik Tucker, period. And I think those are the main ones. But
perfect.
Yeah.
All right. I'll drop them in the show notes.
Come on. Appreciate
Thank
you,
man.
Thanks, Mark.